Welcome back, guys. So episode 3 of the Fade the Public series. This is a series where we talk about who the public are betting on and how you can use that to take advantage of public sentiment, of the bookies who are trying to bait you into betting the wrong thing or trying to bet you to bait something at either trap value or poor minus EV value. This is the missing link in sports betting, in my opinion. This is the one bit of information that everyone should be looking at, but nobody seems to talk about apart from professional sports bettors. And we're going to discuss it here. We're going to discuss 3 bets that we like if we're taking the public side or we're fading the public or what we think is going to happen. Let's get into it. So, what we've got here for the first selection, we're going to be going to the Premier League this weekend. Newcastle versus Aston Villa. So this is an interesting game because what we're going to say as a prediction is something that no professional, no handicapper, no tipster seems to bet. But we've become known for doing this. Now, we bet draw lines quite a lot, and this game smells like a draw. The problem with the draw line is the odds are high. Obviously, you can take just one goal to mess a draw up, but every now and then, you're going to get a good opportunity to bet the draw. So, we've got Newcastle. They've got 33% of bets at, right at the moment, almost 2-1 odds. So, 2.95 decimal odds. Very good odds. So, a lot of people are betting them at decent money. They're struggling. They bought Alanga from Forest, but they've struggled with strengthening the squad. This is one of these situations where this line, in my opinion, looks like a trap, and it looks like they're baiting people in to take high odds. Because there's quite a big liability there for the bookies. They've got to pay, if this hits, like 35%-ish, maybe more by the time the game starts, out at 2-1 odds. However, Villa are also at plus money. So Villa are at 2.30 decimal odds, and they've got 67% of the total money bet. We quite like Villa. So they bought in Gessen from Nice, who is a very strong player, should fit into the number 9 role. If Watkins gets subbed off around maybe the 60-minute mark later in the second half, which is to be expected, it's a lose-lose game for the bookies. So this means if either side wins, they're not really going to profit from these lines because, one, you've got Newcastle at high odds with a decent amount of people betting them. You've got more people betting on Villa, but also at plus money. So they're going to kind of lose money either way. What the bookies are really hoping for is a draw. I'm not saying a draw is definitely going to happen. Draws are hard to predict, but what I am saying is that there's going to be good value in there. Now, the draw is unique in sports betting, in football. If we're going to look at football, in general, the underdogs are the most profitable side to take because everyone bets the favourite, which means favourites are usually poor value. Not always, but usually poor value. And the underdog, if you play them, like if you bet £1 on every underdog, by the end of the season, you would have profit. If you bet £1 on every favourite, you would lose money. The draw is different though. The draw, you would think, the higher the draw line, the more value there is, but this is not the case. The draw is profitable on average as long as it's under about 3.70 decimal odds. So when you see a draw line that has lower odds, that means the likelihood is higher, but there's still good value because nobody bets it. So the odds stay high. And if you see the draw line being pushed down, that's a very good sign that you can bet it, or that it will likely hit, sorry. And at the moment, I believe you're going to get 3.60 decimal odds for this draw. And it's probably going to go down close to 3.30, close to kickoff. So we like the draw here. It's a higher risk play. I'm not saying it's definitely going to happen. And you could actually look at taking double chance. So if I was going to take a double chance or a draw on a bet, I would go on the Villa side because I think they're the stronger team. And I think Newcastle looks a bit trappy, but the draw is what we would go for at very juicy odds. So the second play, or the second game we're looking at, we've got Fulham and Brighton. Similar situation here. So you've got Fulham with 38% of all money bet at 2.90 decimal odds. So they're the underdog and they've got a fair amount of money being bet on them. Brighton, they are sitting at, I think, 1.80 decimal at the moment with 62% of total money bet on them. So everyone's backing Brighton, but a large chunk of people are backing Fulham at decent odds. So the sharp money is actually coming in on Fulham. So even though there's a lot of money on Fulham, it's less total bets. So the sharp bettors, the professional gamblers, are betting big on Fulham. Now, this doesn't mean it's a good bet. They tend to just bet the value. They tend to bet the underdogs, professional gamblers. So it doesn't mean, oh, this is going to win or this is necessarily a good bet. They're just playing the value. I think this could be another draw type game as well. So if we had to lead towards one side, we would say Fulham. And this is the sort of game where you're going to get over 2.5 goals as well. Both teams capable of scoring. It's hitting both head-to-heads last season. And you can tell from the way that the odds are, it's going to be a competitive game where the draw is fairly likely. I'm not going to say the game's going to be a draw here, but I like the over 2.5 goals. And you'll get that at the moment for about 1.85 decimal odds, so it's a nice odd as well. And what we've done there, we've used the split, and we've used the way that the bookies are trying to lure the public in, i.e. they're trying to get them really on either side. And I would say they're either going to try and bait them into taking Fulham at some decent odds, but you know, they're under the underdog, maybe less likely team to win is what they're thinking. Or they're trying to bait everyone on the Brighton side. It's hard to really understand what they're doing, but more public money is on Brighton. So it looks like Brighton is the bait side. So I would like Fulham if I was going to pick a side, but I would go for over 2.5 goals as a much safer play, because this indicates the fact that both sides, there's liability for bookies on each side. It indicates a draw the bookies think is fairly likely as well. So I'm going to take the total. In draws, I also like, or games that should draw, I also like taking both teams to score, because in general, a 0-0 scoreline isn't that common. So if a game's likely to draw, you're usually going to get both teams to score here as well. So I would maybe look at that line too. And then finally, I'm going to look at a UFC bet that everyone is talking about. So you've got Lerone Murphy versus Aaron Pico this weekend. Lerone Murphy is a big public underdog. So he at the moment, I believe, is at 2.45 decimal odds, which is extremely high for a proven UFC fighter who has fought the much better competition. He's fought top level competition. I think his last fight was against Emmett, who is a top 5 fighter. And Pico's coming from outside the division, making his UFC debut. He's a very elite striker, but Murphy's a striker as well. So what the bookies seem to be thinking is that Pico's striking level is going to be above Murphy's. Murphy will oblige the striking battle and will maybe get clipped or will lose a decision. Now, just under 70% of all the money bet is on Lerone Murphy. So he's a public underdog, which is a red flag. So what this means to me is the bookies seem very convinced that Pico's going to win. MMA is different from football because there's not as much data to go on. These guys have never fought each other. They have no common opponents. It's going to be very hard to predict what's going to happen. So in this situation, if I just looked at the split data, I would say Murphy looks like a big trap. I'll go with Pico. And because of that as well, I would also not be surprised if this goes to the distance and goes to a decision. Do not be surprised if Murphy does well but gets robbed by the judges, because corruption's part of sport, guys. And in the judging, like we've just seen last week for the UFC with Brundage, the judges, someone gets them. And when there's money been bet on one side and the bookie's got heavy liability, the judges always seem to lean the other way. So this is an interesting example to use in this series, but I would say Murphy is very good value because he's been proven, he's tested, and the odds are just too high. You know, at those odds, this fight should be more of a 50-50 fight, so you should play the value. But this data is also telling you that this could be a trap. So I would say the smartest thing to do would be, if you're going to bet it, don't go too big on this fight. Also, you may want to look at betting Pico live. If it starts looking more of an even fight and the odds start going up for Pico, it may be a good live bet, because the bookies are seeing something that we're not seeing, and a robbery could be quite likely. But what I would normally do in this situation is pass. I don't think the value can be missed here on Murphy. I think Murphy is good for a small bet, and I'm going to go with the public underdog, something that I usually do the complete opposite of. So those are the 3 plays. Hopefully, seeing the split data, me explaining it's giving you a bit of a better insight. If you really want a good insight, join the free Telegram. The link's in my bio. We post free plays every day. We post analysis there. We post this split data every day as well, which I never see anyone else talking about. This is going to be a big weekend. Football's back. We're going to make a ton of money. Just have a look at our stats. We post them in the free VIP group in Telegram every single week, and I have done that for over a year. This is something that no handicapper seems to do. They never talk about their record or show what their stats are. We do, win, lose or draw every week. And let's have a big weekend, guys. We had a massive season last year, and we're going to have a huge one this year as well.